In this lesson, we're going to start looking at graphing linear equations. The focus of this unit is really on solving systems of equations, but the first way to do that is with graphing. So we need to make sure we're familiar with graphing a line first. We'll consider two ways to graph a line, using slope-intercept form and using the x and y intercepts. Slope-intercept form of a line, or of a linear equation, is written as follows: y equals mx plus b, where m represents the slope and b represents the y-intercept. Before you state the slope and y-intercept of the line, you want to just double check that it is written in this form, y equals, or if it's not, move the pieces so it does reflect this same form. So the slope is m, the factor in front of the x, and there's two ways to think about slope. We can say, well, it's the difference in y's, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So there's an equation for slope. Very important that you remember that and use that. And another way to think about it is rise over run. So the amount up down compared to the amount left and right on the bottom. The b then represents the y-intercept. And remember, the y-intercept is the point where the graph of the line intersects the y-axis. The slope can be positive or negative. So low on the left, high on the right is positive. High on the left, low on the right, negative. The slope can also be 0. And the slope of 0 is represented by a horizontal line. Imagine that's horizontal. And the reason that slope of 0 is because rise over run, well, the rise is 0. It doesn't go up or down. And the run, well, it doesn't matter what it is because anything divided into 0 is 0. So that's why a horizontal line has a slope of 0. We can also have undefined slope. Undefined. And an undefined slope, well, those come from vertical lines. And the reason that's undefined, well, the rise in this case can be any amount we want. It just goes up and down forever. But the run is 0. And division by 0 is not possible, so that's why we get an undefined. So those are the four possibilities for slope. Let's do example 1 and 2 here, where we're going to calculate slope. I suggest when you do a question like this, where you're asked to find the slope through points, you start by labeling the points. So we'll call this x1 and y1. This is x2 and y2. And we're going to find the slope. So the equation for slope is the y2 minus y1, difference in y, over x2 minus x1, difference in x. So y2 is 3 minus negative 3 over 5 minus 2. That gives us an answer of 6 over 3, or 2 for the slope. For the next example, we'll mix it up. We'll say this is x2 and y2, and this is x1 and y1. As long as you're consistent, it doesn't matter which you call point 2 and which you call point 1. The answer will be the same. And in this case, we get 2 minus negative 1 over negative 1 minus 3. And that gives us 3 over minus 4, or minus 3 over 4. And these are the same, and that's two different ways to think about the rise and the run, or the slope in this case. Example 3 is a question that students seem to love, because here we're given y equals 3 over 2 x minus 3 and asked to find the slope and y-intercept. Well, remember, if it looks like this, y equals mx plus b, the slope is in front of the x, the m term, and the b tells us the y-intercept. So for this example, slope equals 3 over 2, y-intercept equals negative 3, or b equals negative 3, because really the y-intercept is the point 0 minus 3. Be careful though, take special note. I could give you the question x equals 2y minus 1. The slope here does not equal 2. The slope is the number in front of the x variable, provided it's solved for y. So the first step to answer a question like this would be to say, well, 2y is going to have to equal x plus 1. We move the 1 over, which means y is equal to 1/2 x plus 1/2 telling me that the slope of that line was actually 1 over 2. So careful when you're working with questions like this. If you're going to say the slope and y-intercept directly from the equation, what they are, then it has to be in the form y equals. We're going to go ahead and graph this line now, and we're going to do it using the slope and y-intercept. So the equation of the line was 3 over 2x minus 3, which told us the slope was 3 over 2, and the y-intercept, or b value, was minus 3, so 0, comma, minus 3. And so we're going to just sketch it here, and we're going to label our axes. So our y-axis, we go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we'll label that as 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's our labels. Now, to graph the line, we start with a point. So the point we have is the y-intercept. So 0 in the x and minus 3. So there's our first point, 0, minus 3. To get our second point, we're going to use the slope. So let's just write the slope again, 3 over 2, and that's the rise over the run. So up 3 and right 2, because this is positive and this is positive. So up 3, 1, 2, 3, right 2, 1, 2, tells us this is our second point. Once we have the 2 points, then we just draw a line to connect them, and it looks something like that. Our line should have arrows on the end just to indicate that it goes forever in each direction. We can actually find any other point on the line by actually just continuing the pattern. So if we go 1, 2, 3 up and 1, 2 right, we see that this line should have gone through there, and the slope we can count anywhere to just get more points on the line. We're going to do example 5 now, and I'm just going to write the equation that we're given here. We have to move our screen up to see everything. We're not really going to follow the steps there. We are going to graph it, but we're going to do it using the x and y intercepts. So the x-intercept is the point on the x-axis where the line crosses. And the thing that's true about all points on the x-axis is that y is equal to 0. So to find the x-intercept, we plug in 0 for y, and we solve for x. So 2x is equal to 6, and that gives us x equal 3. So when x is 3, y is 0, y-intercept, the y-intercept, well, what do we know about the y-axis? Everything on the y-axis has x equal to 0. So to find the y-intercept, we take the equation, except we plug in x equal to 0, then plus 3y equals 6, 3y equals 6, which means y is 2, meaning the y-intercept is 0 for x and 2 for y. And if we label our axes, we get 5 here, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once we've calculated both intercepts in, we simply have to place both points on our coordinate plane here and connect the points. So 3, 0 is the x-axis, so 1, 2, 3. And there's that point. So this is 3, 0. 0, 2 is the y-axis, so 0 and 2 is right there. 0, 2. And now we simply need to draw a line between the 2 points. So there's the line given by that equation. That'll be the end of this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll look at getting the equation of a line from the graph, and then we'll move towards solving some systems of equations. As always, make sure you ask questions if you don't understand, and I will see you in the next lesson.